Have you ever wondered what is the best way to farm resources in Ark? Well, there have been quite a few changes, and everyone has their method they enjoy. Today, we will dive into the most efficient way to farm resources for your time. Alphas do not farm based on what gathers the most per node. No, they gather based on the fastest way to get the most possible in a short amount of time with the least amount of people. But do not worry, I will go over multiple ways to achieve a similar goal in case you do not or cannot have some of the dinos and equipment needed. If you do not enjoy farming, stick around for some alternative methods for getting your resources. First up, let's go over wood. Wood is a huge staple in Ark. You need it to build a few things, but most importantly to make charcoal for gunpowder. Depending on your dinos, gear, etc. will depend on the way you farm wood. Having a transmitter with a deddy next to it on Ragnarok near the swamp will make collecting wood faster. You can then link up a tech strider to the deddy and head over into the swamp and farm up the trees. When done, you can just go to the deddy, transfer all into your inventory, and then when the timer hits, take the wood to your base. If your base is on Rag, then just link to a deddy in your base. If you don't have a strider, then you can easily use a Therizino on a raft and just raft around getting wood. This is a little bit slower, but once this area is slot capped, you will have to unload it, and having a deddy to unload is helpful. That way you can just keep farming. Also, having a second player or a PC with an auto clicker is very useful. Using a Theri can get difficult, especially if there's no one riding it to hit the trees. You can accidentally knock it off the raft, so try not to run it into the trees. Of course, if you have a skiff, it is much faster to carry the Theri or Mammoth with a skiff instead of using a raft. You could also go Crabman Theri if you really wanted. A runner-up on wood gathering is a Bronto with a high melee and a skiff on Gen 1. In the space biome, there are nodes that when hit with a Bronto tail, give a lot of wood. Let us know in the comments below if you have a tech strider or not. Next up, stone. Farming stone is fairly simple and fast, and can be done on most maps with a Dododex. Metal nodes give quite a bit of stone. If you're trying to set up a farm rotation, you may want to start with metal or stone first, then the other last. So if you went stone, then the first resource you would farm for the day would be stone. That way when you're ready to farm your last resource of the day, you can hit the same spot for metal. For the fastest way to get the most stone, we will use a tech strider on Aberration. The blue zone is full of nodes that provide metal or stone. Just make sure the strider is hooked up to a stone deddy. If you do not have a base on Ab, you can still drop a deddy and a transmitter. I recommend a base somewhere on Ab though, so you can have a skiff and a strider on Ab, or just a hiding spot somewhere that you can park them at. If you don't have a strider, a crab and a doed will work fine. It is just slightly slower. Of course, this area is the same place to farm metal, so when everything has respawned, put the strider on the metal deddy and go crazy. Of course, if you don't have a strider, then you can use a crab and an Anki. Then there is Flint. Farming Flint is not a very good use of time. You can get Flint by hitting rocks with an Anki, and if you have a skiff, you can quickly do this with a buddy. But the fastest way to make Flint is just to run grinders. A small setup would be 10 to 20 grinders fired up and all going at once. Then there is Thatch. Thatch is fairly easy to get, and one of the best ways would be to put wood in grinders and make what you need. If you really wanted to farm it, you could hit the swamp on Rag with a moose and a raft or skiff. The Megalosaurus are great at gathering thatch. Then there is fiber. You could gather this with a Theri on Aberration, but the best way, again for time, is use a strider on Aberration hooked up to a fiber deddy. No matter which way you farm fiber, this trick will remain the same. The trick is to find a spot with bushes that give berries and fiber and harvest them. Then you de-render the area however you want to do it. We have a teleporter we use to leave the area for 30 seconds to a minute, then come back and re-render the area. And the bushes will be back. On Aberration, these can look like blue flowers as well. Aberration is one of the few maps bushes come back on, that's why we do this on Aberration. A strider can fill a deddy up with fiber in 15 to 30 minutes this way. Polymer farming can be fast or slow depending on if you have hard poly or soft poly. Unless you just cannot get enough soft poly into a replicator to craft whatever it is you need to craft, soft poly is the most efficient way to go. You can do this in several places, but the best is on Aberration in the areas where you see the white plants. Use a bear to hit them to get poly from. My favorite spot is near the radiation lake that you can just run up the path back to the top, and there's a lot of plants along the way. I can just take the bear in a straight line up the path until the plants run out, circle back down, and hit them again. The poly plants come back if de-rendered and re-rendered back in. You do not need to worry about melee on the bear, other than enough to fight the drakes and other dinos in the area. Weight is key here when getting poly, so you can slot cap, head back, grab a new bear, slot cap again as many times as needed for the crafting project. You really only grab the soft poly for craft when you're ready to actually craft. If you cannot stand the aberration though, you can always head over to the Crystal Isles honey cave and hit the hives with a doed. This will give you quite a bit of soft poly, not as much as ab, but it's still decent. Soft poly spoils, so only collect this resource if you need it. You can extend its life by putting it in snails, but only a little bit, and as little as snails can carry, it just doesn't seem worth it. You could mix it in a cooking pot with oil to make soap as a way to store it for later by grinding the soap in a grinder, but again, it's so easy to gather, this seems like a waste of time and resources. If you need hard poly, the island and Ragnarok have some decent areas to quickly grab up some obsidian with an Anki and skiff. If you already have a skiff on Rag for farming, you might as well take an Anki out and grab up the obsidian on the map. Needing to make vaults, gas, or other oil-based items and need loads of oil? Well, unfortunately, oil takes a while to get in huge quantities. The best thing to do here is to set up oil rigs on any map. I like Ragnarok the best because it has a lot of oil spots over in the desert. Again, another reason to have a skiff on Ragnarok. Put oil rigs in all the spots and swing by on the skiff or flyer 1 to 2 times per day and just pick up oil. This way, when you need it, you have it, and you're not scrambling to try and get oil from different maps for hours on end. Then, there is cementing paste. When you need paste, you will need loads of it. But raiding beaver dams takes a long time, and the amount you get may vary. Yet, using a kimbench to combine stone and chitin into paste is no fun either, and takes a while. So how do the alphas have deadies and deadies of cementing paste? Well, they dupe the paste. No, just kidding. The trick is to tame 12 to 24 snails. Then you will need 1 gotcha per 12 snails. If you do not want to use gotchas, then you will need 20 snails. Set up the snails around the gotchas, weigh them down, and put them on wonder. They will now make paste in the inventory, as well as poop paste every so often. The gotchas will pick up the paste. It takes about 12 snails per gotcha to keep them too busy picking up the paste to eat it. The snails will produce 100 paste per hour in their inventory, then stop until the paste is removed. Come by and collect the paste from their inventory every hour, and empty the gotchas as well. Once you have a deady or 2 of paste built up, you can just pull the paste once a day or so. If you know you have a huge project coming up that will drain your paste, switch back to once an hour. Always keep your paste and metals stockpiled. You never know when you will need to rebuild defenses or need to spam a map while fighting. Then we have pearls. Where do you get silica pearls? Well, it depends on what map you're on. If you're on a map that has a lot of silica pearls in one spot where you know you can slot cap, that's great. You go ahead and do that there. But as most maps, the oceans are extremely dangerous, right? And you're likely to lose your angler. There's always a good chance of that in most ocean scenarios, except for maybe on Ragnarok. Right, so used to, I would farm all my pearls on Ragnarok, but there is a much better place now. If you go to Crystal Isles, there is a place around 3860. If you have scuba or a tail helm, you can stay underwater. If not, eat a last chowder or get air when you need it. The pool is shallow. With an angler, you can slot cap on pearls quickly. I slot capped in about 5 minutes. This location is great because there's very little to no threats. It makes it easier to add this to your daily round of farming. Just put a bed nearby, spawn in the bed with your angler and RG, throw your angler out, collect all your pearls. About the time your cryo sickness wears off, you'll be slot capped. You can throw out your RG then, fill your RG up, pick up your angler and fly to an obby or drop, or even a hidden transmitter and transfer to your main base. Then there's chitin. It's another resource you may need a lot of, but seems to be a pain to farm. Well, have no worries. You just need a Megatherium. I like to have a deady near a transmitter as well to do this, but that is not needed. On Gen 1 at the volcano, you can simply activate the game, the extraction, on the easiest difficulty. Walk into the entrance of the cave, kill all the bugs, get the chitin, cancel the game, then rinse repeat. Having it ready on the map to stash the chitin in is nice, so that when you're making Ethereum slot caps, you can just move it over and keep going. If you don't have a base on Gen 1, you of course will have to take the time, or have tribe mates that can come over and grab chitin while you farm and transfer off the map. There are other methods of farming that may be more fun, and after we go over those, we will get into the oddball resources you may need like gems, rare flowers, and so on. So, on Genesis 1 and 2, there is a store where you can spend hex earned from beating the minigames. While the cost of some of the resources is high, this can be a great alternative to farming. Instead, you farm a game mode that you enjoy. Now, some minigames do provide more hex than others and can require you to have a really good gear or dinos to complete. I have several videos on gathering hex, some for if you have the gear and dinos, and others for if you're just starting out and needing hex. Head over to Camway Gaming and search for hex. I will try and remember to put them in the description as well. Due to the cost, it's less efficient time-wise to farm points for resources. I do not enjoy crafting gunpowder though, so I will farm points just to buy gunpowder with. If you have a proper gunpowder bullet station set up in your base, it's a lot faster to just farm stone and wood and make gunpowder. If you do not though, then points may very well be better for you. Points are also great for solo players because raiders cannot take them from you. Though there are glitches where points disappear and sometimes you can lose a character. Now for the oddball resources here and there, such as red gems, green gems, blue gems, fungal wood, black pearls, and so on, using a gotcha is the way to go. If you've been taming or breeding gotchas to get element dust gotchas, you have most likely gotten gotchas that can produce all the oddball resources that are scarce in the game. Now the gotchas do not make gems, they make sap in the color of gems. The sap is interchangeable with the gems on everything but climbing picks. Gotchas are also one of the best ways to farm crystal due to how sparse crystal is everywhere. Another method for crystal is to use a Bronto on Gen 1 in the space biome to farm from the plants there. If you have a skiff and Bronto on Gen 1, it is a pretty decent method. The plants look like these small, twisted trees with crystal growing in them. Just find a spot in the space biome you like with these plants in them. Then you can simply de-render and re-render them back, and they'll have respawned, similar to the aberration bushes. This makes for fast slot caps of crystal. Unfortunately, the text writer cannot farm these plants. Now, if you're looking for rare flowers and mushrooms, all you have to do is tame a Megasalon and leave it out in your base, and it will generate hundreds in its inventory for you. Alright, then there's element dust, right? Element dust is huge for tribes that have bases on several maps, or like to go raid other maps. Because, as we all know, you can transfer dust to other maps and then turn it into element. So, setting up a proper gotcha tower can really get you element dust or any other odd resource quickly. If you would like a video on how to set up an alpha gotcha tower, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button. Have an awesome day.